Do you need to take a break off of the RETATRUTIDE that you're taking for your contest prep, or can you use it all year round? Stay tuned. I'll let you know. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your weekly question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, life, whatever is on your mind is all on the table. We're going to go right into the first two questions. First two questions on the show, as always, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Question about post-workout nutrition. I've heard you say that you should get your post-workout shake in containing isolyze and carbolyze within 15 minutes of your workout. I always do 30 minutes of cardio after my workout, since that I'm in a fasted state. Is it okay to drink it after the cardio?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do it before the cardio, because the whole idea is you're creating a fasted state for the cardio by working out and depleting glycogen. And your body is, I think a lot of people don't realize, people think that while you're training you can absorb nutrients really well, and that the answer is you can absorb them somewhat, but very poorly. And the reason is that when you're training, whether it be weight training or cardio, the blood has been diverted away from the organs of digestion. Okay. What that means is that the blood flow is in your muscles, and there's not much in the intestinal tract. There's not much in your kidneys. That's why you don't have to, most people don't have to pee 14 times during the middle of their workout, because their kidneys are just not working at that point, or they're working very slowly. Same thing with the digestive tract. You don't want to be trying to ingest massive amounts of nutrition while you're working out, because the blood is just not there to absorb it. So it's silly. And that's why I sometimes see when people are guzzling stuff in the middle of workouts, I'm like, you're wasting your time. After the cardio is done, that's when you employ your post-workout nutrition or whatever meal you happen to be eating. You never like have a shake and then go do your cardio. That's even in the off season, you wouldn't do that, because it's just not efficient, because once you start doing cardio, you're not going to absorb it anyway. So it's just going to kind of lay in your stomach, and it's going to take a very long time to get absorbed, and you're probably just going to be burping it up and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very common question, but a lot of people don't realize that. But yes, when you work out, the organs of digestion just don't work very much.
Second question, again, these first two from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. This one, again, one of the most trendy peptides on the market right now, RETATRUTIDE. Do you need to take a break off RETATRUTIDE? I'm currently in my third month, using only 1.5 mg per week.
I have to just go on the record right now and say it, because this way people can say Dave said it. I'm a little concerned that so many people are using RETATRUTIDE, and I'm very concerned because they're promoting the hell out of it. And I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about the drug companies. And when that happens, usually it means that they don't really know what the long-term effects of this is. So if I were competing these days, I probably wouldn't even use it, because I have a really good metabolism. But if I needed it, I would use it only for dieting for competition. I don't think it's something you want to take all the time. It's not something that naturally occurs in your body, especially the RETATRUTIDE. There's 3 separate drugs in there. It's not just the GLP-1 agonist. There's a GIP agonist, and there's a glucagon agonist in there. I just think it messes up with the chemistry of your body and the functioning of your body. So long term, I wouldn't take it. Would I have a problem with anyone taking it 12 to 16 weeks before a show? No. I think that's the proper way to use it. Now, there are some people that are just dysfunctional in terms of blood sugar control, and they just gain weight. They just have terrible metabolisms. Some of those people you can make a case for them staying on it. But I'm talking about the bodybuilder, okay? And when you're in a situation off season wise where you're trying to put muscle on, and you're taking a drug that delays the absorption of nutrients through your intestinal tract, because what it does essentially is slow down the digestive tract, which is what makes you feel satiated and not hungry. you're actually limiting your body's ability to recover. So you're slowing down the recovery process. So that's not good in the off season. So my suggestion would be don't use these GLPs, agonists, and the RETATRUTIDE, whether you're Mounjaro, whatever you're using, don't use them in the off season unless you have a legitimate metabolic problem. If you're just a bodybuilder who thinks I'm going to stay lean while I'm growing, it's not the case. Just eat less food. You know what I mean? And that'll solve your problem. You don't want to delay the absorption of nutrients. Now, these two questions are really good. And these are the type of questions we get on the Dave Palumbo Experience app. And a lot of you don't, I'm always getting questions about, Dave, how do I educate myself? Is there a book I can buy? No, the problem is, the reason I haven't really written books per se to put out there, and I probably will at some point just for posterity purposes, but no one reads books anymore. So people use apps. And so the Dave Palumbo Experience app is what you're looking for. It's the constantly being updated with the latest and greatest materials. It has all the videos that I've ever done. All my writings are on there. All my protocols, off-season, pre-contest, diets, cyclical keto diets, regular keto diets, off-season diets, drug cycles for men, women, advanced, beginners. Everything's on there. And we do a Q&A video, like another Ask Dave, exclusively to the app members every single week. And they answer everyone's questions in an open forum. So you see everyone's questions and answers. It's a real learning experience. If you want to really educate yourself and keep on top of what's going on in the nutrition world, in the drug world, in the bodybuilding world, and know what the latest and greatest things to do is, have a library of information at your beck and call. For $29 a month, you can download the Dave Palumbo Experience app. We have a lot of members. I really appreciate the support, and that's why I put so much dedication into that app. So thank you.
Before we go to the rest of our questions, our friends at Titan Medical Center have a new and really unique entry into the game. It's the Titan Transformation Stack. And I'll just kind of read it out. Most people don't need more treatments. They need the right combination used intelligently. And that's why they've gone ahead with the new Titan Transformation Stack, 4 of their most effective peptides combined into one strategic protocol. AOD 9604, targeted fat loss. MOTS-C, metabolic efficiency and cellular energy, and obviously much conversation about that recently. Testosterone, visceral fat reduction and body recomp, and ipamorelin, recovery, sleep, and lean muscle support. This stack was designed to work together, not separately. Now, again, Dave, I'll let you, harp more about the benefits and everything like that. But just as far as the pricing, individually, these peptides alone would cost over $1,500 a month. But this week only, and again, this week only, they're offering the full Titan Transformation Stack for $600. It's normally $1,000.
It's a great deal they're doing, and I think the idea behind it would be to get people to try it so they can see that it actually works really effectively. And people will use what works, and so sometimes people don't want to try things because it's expensive. So by giving this huge discount, I think it's going to entice people to try it, and then if they get great results, which we know they will, they're going to continue to use it. It's the same thing we do with look, Species Nutrition's isolyze is a very expensive protein to make. And that's why we're not the cheapest protein on the market. But so we do sales every once in a while so that people can try the product at a reduced price where we're really not making any money on it, so that people can say, wow, I understand now why this protein is better than what's out there. Now I'm going to start using it on a regular basis, even though I wasn't really planning on, I didn't want to spend that much money. I understand that the quality is there. So same thing with Titan, they're going to, every once in a while, they're going to do these sales. It's great. It's a great chance to get, involved right now, because the price is almost 2/3 less than it normally is. So I would give it a shot. If you're looking to burn some fat and you're looking to feel better, get some rejuvenation, increase your natural growth hormone levels, reach out to them. Tell them Dave Palumbo, RxMuscle sent you. You're going to get that great discount. And, you might want to be involved with some of their other therapies, testosterone replacement, glutathione like I use, NAD+, which is great for energy production and mitochondrial health. So reach out to them. They're very knowledgeable over there, and they'll take great care of you.
Again, mention Dave Palumbo or RxMuscle, and you will get the royal hookup. Go to our YouTube community questions, Instagram and Facebook, our various social media outlets. My endocrinologist said to me that my free testosterone is more important than my overall testosterone. She said free testosterone is what builds muscle. Is this true?
No, not. I'm going to say no, but I'm going to qualify it. Okay, because if you're natural, okay, and you have, let's say, a middle of the road 400, total testosterone. But your free testosterone is high, you might feel good, because there's more available to use. From a muscle building standpoint, however, total testosterone seems to be more important, meaning that if you're taking exogenous testosterone and your levels are up to 2,000, or even at 1,500, you're going to grow. Even if your free testosterone is not considered high, you're going to grow much better. So that the overriding effect is once the total testosterone gets over that 800, high physiological range, all bets are off. And now you get what's called a pharmacological effect. So from anabolics or hormone replacement, getting that total testosterone high is going to supersede the free testosterone. If you're natural and you don't take hormone replacement or do any kind of steroid cycles, obviously having a higher free testosterone, even if your total testosterone is not super, super high, might make you feel better. But for this show's purpose and for the people who ask me questions, it's usually performance related, right? You want to be able to put muscle on, you want to be able to recover, you want to feel good. So usually total testosterone supersedes that.
Couple of training related questions. The first one about mind muscle connection. How long did it take you to achieve, quote, mind muscle connection? And what was your hardest body part to connect with?
Yeah, I'm like my muscle and brain were not connected when I first started very well at all. I would go through the movements and I didn't feel it in the muscles I was supposed to. And I just thought that the weight was the more important thing. And yes, I put some muscle on doing that, but chest was very hard for me. And I had to really learn to keep my chest up, my elbows out to the side and not cheat with my front delts. Because that's when you first start, you'll do anything to get that weight up and you roll your shoulders forward. And I had to teach myself really how to work out. My friend Doug Wentz was a big, advocator of proper form, controlling the weight, control the negative. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. And once I started doing that, I noticed a difference. The key for me with the mind-muscle connection was building muscle. So once I started building the muscle, the mind-muscle connection was there. So I think when people first start working out, because you don't have the muscle, there's not a lot of muscle there, it's hard to connect with that muscle that's there. Especially if you have a very fast metabolism, you tend to be on the skinnier side like I was. Guys that just are a little bulkier by genetics, those are the guys that have a little bit more muscle naturally, but are a little fatter. Those guys seem to have a better mind-muscle connection because they already have some bulk there. I had nothing there. So I had to be very patient and I had to basically teach myself proper form. And I tell this to people all the time. I see guys that have really good physiques and they have one body part that's just not good. Like maybe, let's say upper chest, for instance. And I'll be like, I know you don't want to do this because I know you're strong in the gym. You're going to have to start from zero again and retrain yourself how to change chest. You're going to have to do incline work and keep your chest up and your elbows out and really just use those upper pecs and resist using the front delts. And once those front delts want to start coming into play, the set's over. And so you can build mind-muscle connection, and everyone, it takes a different amount of time. I think some guys just genetically have it, and that's why they respond very quickly in the gym initially. And other guys, they have to develop it. But you can develop it, and once you do, I feel like I have a better mind-muscle connection than the guys that it came intuitively to because I had to work for it. But regardless, it's all about form. It's about full range of motion. It's about controlling the motion and not worrying about lifting crazy heavy weights. I see guys in the gym doing some insane, crazy. There's no way they're feeling it in the muscle. And some of these guys are big too, but they're just not. They're not doing things the right way. Imagine if they have muscle already. Imagine if they did things the right way and controlled the weight and had that mind-muscle connection. But like I said, it's a genetic variable thing. Some people got it, some people don't. You can always develop it.
This actually transitions perfectly into our next question. When you were at your absolute peak, did you ever run into issues with gym equipment limiting your progress? For example, machines or cable stacks that eventually at a certain point too light. Were there ever times where you just had to switch 100% to free weights?
I used mostly free weights, so it was never really a problem. I've told the story. I actually have a little reel somewhere on my Instagram where when I would do the pull down machine, you'd always have this pad on your legs, and I couldn't get my legs under the pad, even at the highest setting, because I had such big legs that they didn't fit. So the guy at the gym had to like drill another hole for me on the thing so that the pad that sits on top of your legs and holds you down. Because if you can't be held down, you can't lift heavy weights. He had to make it higher. And that was one combination I remember. But yeah, I mostly did free weights, so it never really seemed to be a problem, other than that one machine that I really couldn't fit in. There were a couple other machines that I didn't fit comfortably in, but I really never was a huge machine guy. I always did mostly free weights. I transitioned a little bit into machines when my shoulders started getting really bad and I couldn't do the free weight movements I had been doing. But like I said, now that I have shoulder replacements and I'm pain free, I do mostly free weights again. I just think you get a better look to the muscle. I think you get a better workout. I think you can do less volume too, because the free weight is all about balancing, So when I go to the gym for chest, I'll get on the incline barbell press and I'll do like 3 sets on there. I'll go to the incline dumbbells, but I do it on a very, very, I don't really do it on a steep incline. I do it on a very shallow incline. So it's almost like a flat bench dumbbell, but it's probably 30 degrees. And I'll do like 2 sets on there, and I'll maybe go to a hammer incline and do 2 sets on there, and I'm done with chest. I don't even want to do anymore after that. And I got a huge pump on there, and I really feel the muscle activated. That's all you need. If people think, what happens is when people do only machines, they have to do 5, 6, 7 different machines to hit every angle. You don't have to do that with free weights, because free weights works every angle at the same time. And so I think it's a big mistake that people get caught up in too much machine work these days.
Good one here, relevant, and it is kind of when we kind of intersect between nutrition, bodybuilding, and politics. Your thoughts on the new quote unquote upside down food pyramid?
we always said the food pyramid was upside down. I've been saying it for years. It's I said right from the beginning when the whole election process was going, I said, I like Trump. I like he's a breath of fresh air, but I really like Bobby Kennedy's health advocations of what he was advocating for health-wise, in terms of foods and taking out the poisons from foods and getting rid of the coloring and getting rid of, high fructose corn syrup. And so I was almost praying nightly that there would be some way that Kennedy and Trump could work together, and it worked out that way. I'm so happy that Trump is allowing Kennedy to fix the health issue in this country, and they've done a lot in a year. You got to hand it to them. They really have done a lot. And the food pyramid was always horrendous. It was the farmers had such a big lobby in this country that they put wheat and corn and all those carb sources on top because they wanted people to buy that stuff so that the farmers would make money from it. And now, anyone who was anyone knew that the carbs were what was causing all the inflammation, heart disease, diabetes. Everything is linked to too many carbs. We know that you need protein for rebuilding muscle, and we know that we need fat for brain and muscle, repair as well, hormone production. I mean, I've been advocating this for 30 years. I mean, the bodybuilders knew what the right food pyramid was. We knew that, like I said, 30, 40 years ago. The government just didn't want to, condone that because they were trying to support the lobbyists, which is the farmers and the drug manufacturers who make all the drugs for people who eat too many carbs and get diabetes. So I'm very, very happy that this is happening, because it really goes down to the root level. If they don't teach this in school, and I always said, if they only taught people how to eat right in school, we wouldn't have a health issue. People wouldn't be obese because they would learn the right way to do things in school. They served healthy food lunches, school lunches there. Same thing. I'm really happy. My kids go to school here in Florida, and Florida, they provide, pretty decent food, and they give free breakfast and free lunches here. And a lot of places, they don't do that. So, I think that it starts with the kids. And once we train the kids properly, they train their kids properly. And then a generation from now, people will actually know how to eat properly. That doesn't mean people are not going to go to eat ice cream and pizza and stuff like that. But at least at the core root, brainwashed into their head, they know what the right way to eat is now.
Question about loose skin. Now, he's making a point that people past retirement. I don't know what the word he must have misspelled it. It almost looks like he's saying Sharpie, which makes absolutely no sense. But is there any recommendation for loose skin? And I guess if he wants to mix this in as you get older.
Right. You know, I never had any body fat on my body, and obviously I had a lot of muscle, and I don't have like loose skin. Like I know what people would go for surgery to tighten it. Like, you know, when people have that overstretched skin, maybe they were fat for many years. But I definitely noticed my skin is not as taut to my muscle as it was when I was younger. And it could be a fact that I'm just not as big as I was. But I see a lot of people who lose a lot of weight. I work with a lot of clients. They get this like hanging skin on their lower abdomen because they were overweight for a while and now they lost that weight. The only way to get rid of that, I hate to say it, you know, but it's the only way to get rid of it is surgery. There's no creams, red light therapies. They'll sell you a million different things telling you that it's going to make it better. It might make it a little better, but people want that skin gone. The only way to get rid of it is to surgically remove it. Now, if you have loose skin under your arm here, like some women do, or around your lower back, you know, it's not from being fat. It's just because you're getting a little older and the skin has lost some of its elasticity. You can combat that by adding muscle to your body because the muscle will fill in the gaps and stretch that skin tighter. So that's what I recommend for a lot of people who are starting workout programs later in life and have that loose skin after they lose the fat that they have. I'm like, you can tighten that up. And I've seen a lot of competitors that I've worked with didn't get surgery and just built muscle and actually tightened up those areas. And they never were going to be strong areas for them, but they don't have that like looseness hanging anymore. But if you have an excessive amount of skin from, you know, once again, being overweight for a while, the only way to really get rid of it, and for it to look good at least, would be get some surgery done.
Question about the latest on Samson Dauda. He posted on his story earlier today. I think he's now north of 340 pounds. And it's obviously sparked a lot of conversation as far as, well, how big is Samson trying to get during this offseason? Right. And I guess how big is too big? When you weighed 320 pounds in your day back in the 90s as a mass monster, do you think there's a point where bodybuilders get too big with that much weight and it takes considerably longer to cut down for contest prep?
Yeah, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. One of my clients was asking me, you know, it was actually a female. And she's like, you know, I'm up to where's she up to, like 160 or something like that. And she's like, or 150. And she's like, what do you think I'm going to compete at? Because the people tell me I'm going to compete, you know, only a couple pounds heavier than that. I try to explain it, the heavier you get, especially when you go over 300 pounds, the more water you hold. So I can see Samson, let's say he's 240, 345 right now. If he started dieting like tomorrow, in 2 weeks, he'd probably be 25 pounds less because he's at least holding 25 pounds of water. And I noticed that even with myself. And I was very, very lean at 319 pounds, which was my heaviest that I ever weighed in at. But when I dieted from that point, after 2 weeks, I was down to like, you know, 290 in like probably 3 weeks. So it was a lot of water weight. It was obviously good water weight. It was in the right places, but it just, you know, it's still water and it made me stronger, but it wasn't functional weight. So I don't think he's not 340 solid pounds. There's some water weight there that he's holding. And listen, Greg Kovacs was 405, probably at the same height that Samson Dauda was. That was too big. Okay. Samson's not too big for his height. I think I think he can hold that weight really well. Cause like I said, a lot of it's water. And it's probably making him really strong and he's growing well. As long as he's controlling his blood pressure, which I'm sure he is. I don't think on his frame that's too much weight. Now, you wouldn't want to hold that 365 days a year, but he's only doing it temporarily until he starts dieting. So I think he's good. I think this is a good weight for him. I think if he can maintain that and solidify these gains a little bit, I think he's going to do really well. I think he's going to come in with more added tissue to his body.
Question about scar tissue, kind of getting the whole gamut here on this episode. Any recommendations for sore injection sites, especially the delts? Scar tissue buildup, and it's like trying to put a needle through a brick. Glutes and delts, as far as injecting goes, not anywhere else.
Yeah. I would, if you're having like hardness in the muscle because you've been injecting in the same place and it's building up, small amounts of scar tissue, I would give it a break. You got to leave that area alone and just get some deep tissue massage on it. Leave it alone. It'll soften up again. Unless you have that like really nasty, gnarly scar tissue there, which it takes a long time to get that. What this person sounds like they're experiencing is just from repeated injection sites. This area is very full with a lot of oil, probably from the injections. And then on top of that, it's irritated because you keep sticking a needle through the same area. So my suggestion would be maybe move to your lats, do some lat injections for a few weeks until those glutes and delts, cool down a little bit and soften up. And once you can feel like they're softened up and everything got absorbed from that area, you can go back there again. So you want to keep rotating. But the mistake is to keep trying to, go into that same area over and over and over again, because then you're going to build up permanent scar tissue and it's not going to go away.
I have a client whose body weight has plateaued. His testosterone levels are low, but he refuses to get on TRT because he wants to get lean, quote, naturally. I've reduced his calories to the point where he runs a risk of losing muscle. What would you do in this situation?
Well, when you have to go so low and you're doing so much cardio, especially if you're not on gear, even when you're on gear, but especially when you're not on gear, because you have a much greater chance of losing muscle at that point. Usually, you got to do the opposite of what logic would tell you. In other words, I would increase his food temporarily, reduce his cardio, and kind of like shock his body a little bit, and then start increasing cardio and reducing food again, because you can't go lower than a certain amount, like he's saying, because he will lose muscle. And what will happen is once your metabolism shuts down, it basically gives you the middle finger. It basically says, screw you, we're not going anywhere now. That's it. You can starve me as much as you want. You can give me as much cardio as you want. I'm just going to keep slowing down my metabolism, and you're never going to lose any more body fat. And once you get to that point, you're spinning your wheels. You're just wasting your time, and you're risking losing muscle. So at that point, you do the opposite. You say, "Oh yeah, body, I'll show you," and you cut back the cardio, which lets the body recover now, and you blast it with a little bit more food, some carbs, and now your body says, "Wait, what's going on here? We got to increase metabolic rate because we got all this new nutrients coming in," and it blasts its metabolism up again, and then boom, you start dieting again and lowering the food again, and now you start losing weight all of a sudden, and that's what you want to do. You got to shock your body like that. I got the president calling me here.
A lot going on right now.
Yeah. They're like, we don't want to let this guy finish his show. We got stuff to talk about. We have to have the war room meeting.
Oh man! All right. Moving on. When if and when is a good time to add clen, T3 and T4? I can't find much data as far as timing, weight loss, plateaus, as far as those go.
I never add T4 because T4 doesn't do anything. It's inactive thyroid hormone. So if you're going to add thyroid hormone to a stack, you add T3. You don't add T4. T4 doesn't do anything. Clenbuterol is a very, very, I'm still on record as saying it's the most potent fat burner that you could possibly use. I don't care. You can list 25 peptides, GH, nothing is close to clenbuterol. So when I started a person's diet, usually after a couple of weeks, of them getting started, I'll add in, 20 micrograms of clenbuterol twice a day, and we'll start with that. And if they start losing weight on that and they're losing it, pretty consistently, weekly, we keep it at that. If I see they start plateauing a little bit, I might up another 20 micrograms, and then they still plateau. Then I can add T3 and start with 25 micrograms. So I like to use the T3 clenbuterol combination. I usually start T3 way after clenbuterol is started. Sometimes I don't even need to add the T3. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's just a small amount. But I like that combination. Some people, they're super fat when they start, and they start clenbuterol and T3 right from the beginning. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to be able to add things in, progressively as progress kind of, hits plateaus. So I have kind of like an ace in the hole. But there's really no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you up it very gradually. And that means upping the clenbuterol by 20 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks, and the T3 by 12.5 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're doing that nice and gradually, I think that you're going to have no problem, and you're going to see some nice results with it.
Question about while being on cycle. My total test is greater than 1460. Free test is 678. but my SHBG is 8.5. How can I raise that without stopping a test trend cycle?
What does he want to stop?
Well, no, he said I guess he wants to raise his SHBG without.
Well, you don't want. Yeah, well, I think he means he wants to lower it. Sex hormone binding globulin, you want to be as low as possible, because the low, you don't want your body to bind up the testosterone, because that inactivates it. So high sex hormone binding globulin implies that you have less testosterone available for use, because you're binding up more of it. So you want to lower it so that you have less bound up and more free and more available to build muscle. And it goes back to the question we did earlier in the show. If your free testosterone is good and your total testosterone is really high, the other values don't even matter anymore, because if you have like a 3,000 total testosterone, you're gonna have high sex hormone binding globulin, because your body is trying to neutralize some of it. Likewise, you might have lower free testosterone because your body's trying to get rid of some of it, because it knows it's got too much there. But the actual idea of having a total testosterone that high overrides all those other blood tests. That's why those other blood tests are really not accurate when you're on a cycle. And I tell people, don't worry about those values. If your testosterone's through the roof, it doesn't matter. You're getting a pharmacological muscle building effect from the testosterone. You only worry about these other variables when you're natural, when you're trying to look at, well, I only have a 400 total testosterone. What's my free? What's my sex hormone binding globulin? Then you play around with those variables. But if you're taking replacement, or if you're taking cycles, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Couple more questions. One, do you worry about the high amounts of zinc bodybuilders tend to use inhibiting absorption of other nutrients like calcium, copper, or magnesium, since they're directly competing for absorption in the gut?
Look, I tell people all the time, don't overdo any one mineral of anything, okay? Because once you do that, it throws the balance of the other stuff off. That's why I created the mineral. Sid, I hear it like some like noise coming from.
Yeah, I'll mute it. Yeah, it's vacuuming.
It's like so I created V-Mineralize purposely because I wanted all the minerals in a certain ratio, and so I basically took the work away from you. It's not, you don't need 14 different bottles. You don't need to take magnesium different. You don't need to take calcium separately. You don't need to take zinc separately. It's all in there in the right proportions, so that when you take the V-Mineralize, especially the new, by the way, the new one is coming out. It'll be here at the end of the month. A lot of people drive me crazy because we ran out of V-Mineralize. We sell so much of this stuff. We actually oversold it before I thought we'd run out of it. The new one is coming in, however, by the end of this month. It has 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 in it. It has vitamin K2 in it, which the other one didn't have at all. It has methylated folic acid, which the other one didn't have. The other one did have methylated B12. That's still in there. The formula is I'm so proud of this formula. It's so complete now. You don't have to do anything else, vitamin, mineral, and trace metal wise, or antioxidant and polyphenolics. They're all in there in the right ratios. So don't start trying to guess. I need this much of this mineral, this much of that mineral. It's in there. Just take 5 pills twice a day, and you don't have to. You got one bottle on your countertop. You don't have 15 different bottles where you try to say, I wonder if I'm using the right amount. But yes, it is true. If you do too much of any one mineral, you could technically throw the balance of the other ones off. You have to do an awful lot to do that, but it is possible.
I apologize for the noise. Just our cleaning lady happens to be vacuuming in the room right overhead. And then on top of that, I tried one software update and that knocked my whole microphone off. So it's the curse of the RxMuscle audio, but I swear we're going to figure it out. That literally is our New Year's resolution for 2026. We will get our audio sorted out. And
you know what, Sid? The truth is, I would pay, if someone out there sets up studios, like if they're like an expert in that, I would pay someone to come, if they want to come here and set my whole studio up with the right lighting, microphones, and I probably don't need very much. It probably needs to be tweaked, but I would be willing to have someone come here and do it. If we have any listeners out there who that's like their specialty and they're like, oh, this is breeze for me. I had one of our listeners call me up and walk me through and fix the microphone problem we had. But if someone would want to come and do everything perfectly, I would be open to that. So
I will expand upon that. If you happen to be in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area, not an hour and a half away, not 2.5 hours away, in that 15-mile radius that encompasses Fort Myers and Cape Coral, and you happen to be very good with a camera, be it as a videographer, be it as a photographer, we would like to speak to you, because that is something that we're really trying to ramp up this year. As far as, you know, our image, Dave Palumbo's brand, Species Nutrition, and everything else. But again, if you happen to be, you know, a qualified photographer or videographer in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area, hit us up, DM us at the RxMuscle account, and we would certainly like to talk to you. I did want to grab this question before we left, because, you know, look, we do talk about the struggles of mental health in not just bodybuilding, but in life in general. And, you know, look, I think it's obviously very well known, very highly publicized, everything you've been going through over the course of the better part of the last 2 years now. And look, for what it's worth, RxMuscle is still ticking along. Species is still ticking along. Your personal businesses are still ticking along. So you are sort of the embodiment of somebody who's going through things, but, you know, managing to still get their things done and just find a way. So this question, and I can tell just by the emojis and by the language, you know, they're obviously going through things, and we hope for the best for them. How do you personally deal with emotional pain in your life? How can you work and keep yourself healthy like you do relentlessly? Sometimes I feel like the bed is my only one safe place and my best friend very much. Yeah.
Well, luckily I have a show that I do called After Hours, and we vent like a bunch of complaining old men on there, and we release all that. No, you know what? Humor. My father always told me, you have to find the absurdity in everything you do in life, because otherwise it will eat you for lunch and spit you out, and you won't be functional. So the more craziness I go through, or we all go through in life, you have to find the humor in it. And so I always find the humor in everything, even though it's not, there's a lot of stuff is very ugly and terrible, you know, but you can always find the humor in it. And I know that, like, you know, 10 years from now, I'll find it funny, even though maybe right now I don't. So I try to poke fun at it. I let it out, because my old way of handling, you know, stress was just to internalize it. And that's not good, because then then it blows up inside of you, and then you get sick from that. You don't want to do that. So you got to let it out. And like I said, I love the After Hours show, because we all complain and have fun, and everyone, you know, talks about all the things that annoy them about, you know, society and life. And yeah, you have to have a bunch of friends that you can do that with. If you don't have anyone to vent to, or anyone that you can talk to and release that stuff, it's going to fester inside you. And also, I don't believe in failure. So it's important that, you know, very rarely do I get depressed. What I notice is the only times I will get depressed is if I don't sleep enough. So not sleeping and then going through a lot of stressful things, you can't endure it. So sometimes you have to just go take a nap. You know, literally, doesn't matter what's going on in your life, just go into a room, or go into your car, and don't turn the car on, you know, in your garage. That's for sure. But no, go in. I sometimes sit in the parking lot of the gym and just close your eyes for a half hour and get a nice little nap in, and you wake up and everything feels a lot better. It's like you get a reboot of your brain. But yeah, it's important to be able to talk to people. If you have no one to talk to, that's not good, because that could be very depressing, and it doesn't allow you to release some of that stress. I have people that call me all the time to tell me their problems, and then I tell them my problems. So we can, and sometimes when you both have problems, it's good, because you can release them to each other. But I think that's something that a lot of guys have trouble with expressing themselves. And look, when I was younger, I had trouble expressing myself. I used to, like I said, bottle everything up and just think, oh, I'll bury it, deal with it another time. But it eventually does, you know, it'll come up and blast out of your head at some point, and you're going to have a breakdown if you do that. So the best thing to do is release it, make fun of it. If you've ever seen Jimmy the Bull do his rants about his ex-wife, they're absolutely hysterical, but that's his way of releasing all of that terrible stuff that he went through for all those years. And, you know, humor is a great way to release pain and discomfort. And it allows you, once it's released, then you can go on with your life. And so, once again, you know, some guys will crumble from it. Some guys will use it as motivation to be even better than they were before. And I try to do that. And hopefully, that, you know, what I'm doing and how I project myself will be a role model for you guys out there who are watching, who might be going through some tough times, and say, hey, if you can do it, if you can go through a divorce for 2 years, I can do it too. And if he can go through, open heart surgery, have his aorta repaired, I can get through my little finger surgery that I need, or my appendix taken out, or the stent I have to be put in my heart. So I try to be fully transparent and put my life on display for you guys, not because I want to just brag about what's going on in my life, because a lot of it's not always good stuff. It's because I want you to know that if I can get through it, you can do it too. And if I can show you how I get through it, then maybe that will make your life that much easier.
No, I think the user will appreciate your answer. And obviously he and just about everybody that watches the channel has seen what you've gone through. And I think your advice is certainly going to help him and a lot of other people going through their struggles as well. That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Right now on the channel, all new episode of After Hours, where talk about everything from who's coaching Sam Sulik and Rich Piana, if there will ever be another Rich Piana in bodybuilding or this entire bodybuilding and fitness industry, as well as an all-new episode of the Heavy Muscle Radio Show, the return of Chris Aceto, talking about Kai Green and whether or not the utter disrespect of Kai and everything that he's accomplished has gone way too far. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss this or any other shows we have on this channel. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.